Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is the Earthmaster out here on the live stream on this beautiful Thursday morning here along the West Coast, March 31st. Can't believe tomorrow's April 1st, 2022, about 11:24 a.m. California time. Latest quake on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a looks like a 4.6 down here, just off the coast of South America. Let's go ahead and check out the activity over the last 24 hours. Of course, we had the supposed CME hit us last night, sparking up a G1 class storm. Kind of want to jump into that right off the bat here and take a look at the numbers. I'm pretty certain that this thing just gave us a glancing blow. The anticipated G3 storm never arrived. As you can see, KP indexes only peaked out around the 5 index here. So G1 class storm, not even that big of a deal. Of course, there was some auroras down into the very northern latitude states and up into the Canada region, Alaska as well. But definitely sometimes things like this, they don't pan out. They forecast stuff, and they got all that spacecraft up in the space monitoring the travels of the CME and whatnot, and the directions. But the sun's going to do what it wants to do, and it looks like it may have missed us a little bit. We still got that glancing blow. KP index of 4 over the past few hours. So I don't think it's going to ramp up. Looking at the charts here on the speed and whatnot, you can see the arrival there on the BZ kind of shifting in the southward direction a little bit. Density peaked a little bit here as well, along with the speed when the CME just hit us last night. But man, it's just nothing spectacular like they were expecting. So I don't see any updates either from any of these sites on the near miss. Let's see, they're talking about the X-Flare CME that popped off here. Was it yesterday? Yesterday's X-class solar flare produced a CME with an Earth-directed component, but the NOAA analysts think it might be a dud. Okay, now they're thinking this one's a dud. What if it's vice versa? This one's a dud that we just got here last night, and the next one's a powerful one. Who knows? It's kind of odd. Anyway, it's unlikely to have any significant Earth impacts from the X1.3 flare that kicked off yesterday. Here's the CME impact. Sparks auroras in the USA as predicted. Got to cover our tracks, right? There it is. It arrived. But anyway, not the G3 storm they predicted. A cannibal CME. Man, you could have fooled me with that one. Okay, I'll stop with the jokes. Hit Earth's magnetic field March 31st at 02:10 UTC time. The impact caused a G1 class geomagnetic storm, weaker than the G3 storm that was expected, but still enough to spark auroras across multiple northern tier U.S. states. And a bunch of auroras there in North Dakota, like I mentioned. And yeah, so we move on and we wait for the next CME, right? Looks like the sunspot activity is still dynamic in terms of creating a possible X-flare. 2975 there still looks pretty, looks like it's possible it could spark a couple more large flares. We'll keep an eye on that. Earthquake activity. What do we got going on here for earthquake activity? Of course, a lot of movement last night and yesterday, just south of the Port Vila, Vanuatu area, New Caledonia area. Seeing that just to the west here, that earthquake activity here to the east. So far, we got a bunch. 6.9 was the largest yesterday. Actually, no, I take that back. There was 6.9, and then we had that 7.0. The 7.0 came in originally as a 7.3, then it got downgraded to a 6.8, and then leveled out to a 7.0. So a whole bunch of roller coaster guesses on the size of the earthquake. I've seen this one come into the live seismographs last night, and sure enough, it looked a lot bigger than the other 6.9 that hit earlier in the day. So I guess all these are foreshocks, right? Who knows? Is this a foreshock too to something much bigger? I guess that's kind of odd how they say that. Well, this is all foreshocks to this and that. Oh goodness, it's all earthquake activity. That's all I know, and it's continuing since that 7.0 last night. We've seen a couple upper 5s, a bunch of 4s in there as well, and I'm sure many 3s. There's all the 5s, 5.7, 5.9. a lot of movement taking place here. Looking at, well, 18 earthquakes of considerable size here in the South Trench here. Looks like it's just inland as well. I'm looking at the depth of these earthquakes. Roughly, they're all pretty much staying right around the 10-kilometer range. This one here is a little bit deeper. But this trench zone, that's kind of an area where we can see some larger quakes. South New Hibes Trench, I haven't really seen too much activity in here. It normally tends to kick up around the Fiji Islands area, the Kermadec Trench region, and kind of skip this area. But man, I guess that's kind of why we're seeing all the activity today, right? It's been quiet there for quite a while. Let's bring up the historical data in this region, and man, no surprise, definitely see some deeper earthquakes there into the trench. Much shallower quakes in the region around the epicenter of where yesterday's and today's activity is occurring. Magnitude scale department, yeah, definitely up there in the 6-7 range. Not for certain if we see any 7.0 to 8.0 quakes in that area, but I'm sure it's possible. All right, so moving on past there, what else has occurred overnight? Well, it's gone relatively quiet throughout the Indonesia region and up through the Philippine plate. Some activity here around Japan, a couple low-grade 4s. Some of this activity earlier this morning, late last night, up around the bend here, Kroll-Kamchatka Trench, all pretty quiet. Stand by for 1 second here. Kind of weird to come back from storm chasing in Texas. As soon as I get back to California, I get some type of cold that ultimately affects my voice. Kind of weird. Let's see. So Alaska, I'm not seeing any major swarming. Definitely some microquake activity throughout the region. Very typical in that area. Some movement into the Gulf as well, right along the this transition fault here. Looks like a couple 2s in that region. Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet. Look at that. There's no earthquakes at all being reported. And I find that kind of odd because we are seeing quite a bit of tremor activity over the last week in that region. This here is from yesterday. 850 epicenters of tremor into the Vancouver Island ranges and also into southern and northern southern Oregon, northern California region. A pretty large amount of tremor. This has been ongoing now for almost a week after being absent from the map there. The PNSN folks had a network error where it was not displaying, but the data were being recorded. Data was being recorded. a little grammar police out there with the data. You can use it either or. I'm not going to get into that, but to me, California, data was recorded. Data were recorded? Okay. All right. Moving on. So yeah, watching this pretty closely, but I just find it pretty odd that not a whole lot of movement up here. So let's go ahead and check out some volcanoes up there throughout the region of the Pacific Northwest. We'll start off here with Mount Hood. And of course, nothing really shown up here on the reported earthquakes. So I tend to go through the recorded seismographs. And most of the time, these aren't going to lie unless they're way out of whack. There's the S waves from the earthquake activity last night. Not 100% certain what this here is. Some of it looks like earthquake activity. Kind of weird how it just popped up out of the blue here for a couple hours earlier this morning, it looks like. Yeah, it definitely looks like some type of earthquake activity there at Mount Hood region. Could also be, I don't know, it's weird. I'm going to have to look into this a little bit. Wasn't really expecting this thing to pop up like that. Let me check out different data site around the region, see what we got on this 3-component broadband timberline, Oregon region. Sometimes these seismographs have, who knows what, machinery working around it. Look at that large S wave. That is crazy from last night. Shows you how the effects of a large quake can ring across the globe and through the globe, or through the earth. there's some of that measurement too as well. Not for sure what that is, but I will definitely get back on that. It's kind of a little on the crazy side. I want to check one more graph up here and see if these folks are recording it too. Yoakum Ridge. Let's see what we got. Maybe any day now. Tomorrow, today. Alrighty, we're hovering. This is taking a very long time. Okay. All right, there we go. I was just about ready to click stop. So there's the S waves again. Once again from the earthquake yesterday. I'm not seeing any type of signature from the those other two graphs I've seen a little bit further south of here, but I will keep an eye on it. Double check. A lot of times when I look for volcanic seismicity or earthquake activity, I'll double check multiple seismograph stations because there's only a very small amount of distance between the majority of these. But then again, volcanic activity could just be confined to an area to the south or east or west, doesn't matter where, that may also not be picked up on regional seismographs. So I will watch that pretty closely, see if we can figure out what might be creating that little noise. Mount St. Helens here. We'll check. Where'd we go here? There we go. See if I can get this right. I know these guys have been showing up a little bit of earthquake activity, and that not being reported on the PNSN network or the USGS for that matter. Let's see. Stand by for a second here. Okay, so there is the S waves again from the earthquake yesterday. Some earthquake activity localized, just very small, nothing major today. I want to check out yesterday's event as well. There's that little spike. It's definitely probably under, it's under a 2. It could be like a 1 or 1.2 it looks like on the scale. But definitely some earthquake activity in the mix there. Again, not showing up on the USGS map or the PNSN network. So not going to go through all these volcanoes. Sometimes I just like to randomly select a couple because when it gets quiet like this, kind of wondering what's going on. Are they not reporting this data? Is there really no data at all? No earthquakes at all being reported in this area? So it is what it is. We'll keep an eye on it for sure. Southern California showing some movement around the San Andreas Fault here. Looks like a 1.1. Right smack dab on the San Andreas Fault here, the southern section. Aside from that, the rest of the plate boundary there looks pretty quiet. Some movement up and down the San Jacinto Fault zone. Kind of looks like that's a new plate boundary, doesn't it? I think that may happen one day. We'll have to see, or at least maybe not in our lifetime, but down the road. Let's see, Ridgecrest area, pretty quiet. A little bit of movement, not a whole lot though. Things kind of toning down. There's that 4.1. Regional earthquake here, or 3.9. Looks like they downgraded it. Okay, near Bishop, 3.9. That was followed up here by a bunch of microquakes in the area. Looks like including a 3.3 in the area of the volcanic tablelands. Depth of the earthquakes here all over the place. Pretty shallow, down to about 10 kilometers or so in the region. Most of them around 10 to 11. In this area of the Round Valley region. Satellite views here. Definitely some historical volcanic activity out here for sure. But kind of keeping an eye on it. Of course, any 4-pointer, 3.9 will produce some aftershock activity. We'll see how long this swarm continues. Rest of California looks pretty quiet, folks, aside from the Cobb Mountain regional earthquake activity around Clear Lake. Other than that, things pretty mellow throughout the region of California, northern anyway. Nevada, still some activity kicking up around the Mina and the Tonopah region with a few microquakes out there in the desert, about 10 of them. Let's see, what do we got? Yellowstone activity. A little bit of movement, right? Showing up here on the map, about 9 of them. Let's go ahead and check out the live seismographs. Recorded seismographs here, looking at the last 24 hours of activity. Looks like we're starting to see a new swarm kick up down here in the area just around the central part north central part of the Yellowstone caldera. Let's see some of this activity showing up further east. Of course, if you recall, our swarm that we had a couple days ago was centered around the Maple Creek, Madison River area along the northwestern part. Today, swarming activity looks as though we're it's showing up over here too in Parker Peak, but the brunt of the activity, the localized movement, looks as though it's centered around the Mary Lake area. Looking at these well-defined spikes on the seismograph there, indicative of localized activity, and this is probably where the epicenters are occurring. There's there's a good 7 or 8 earthquakes here in the region. USGS showing looks like some of that movement, possibly. Let's see, what do we got? 15:36 for UTC time. 15. Is that from yesterday? Hold on a second here. That's from today, but looks like they haven't got to this activity yet. It's right around the 1600 to 1800 UTC time here within the last couple hours, so I'm sure they'll get to it. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. I did see some of the earthquakes there showing up on the 3D or the live stream there on the live seismograph I have pulled up for Yellowstone. New Mexico, one little earthquake up here around Clayton, northeast of Tucumcari, 3.4 at 5 kilometers. Some movement out around Oklahoma as well. One earthquake on the New Madrid zone, 1.6. The rest of the country looks pretty quiet, folks. Puerto Rico looks like a typical day out there. Around the Caribbean area, no more major quakes to report in that area. South America, look at this earthquake way inland. 3.5, Argentina border, 10 kilometer depth. That's pretty shallow movement. Also some deeper activity here into the trench region here. Nothing. We've got a 191 kilometer deep, 4.4 in the Bolivia area. Yeah, I'm kind of just looking at that movement there. South Sandwich Islands, we've seen a 5.0 yesterday. Actually, is this a new one? It looks like it is. So this region here has seen a couple. We've seen one yesterday and the one a couple days ago. So a couple 5s kicking off here in the central area of the trench. Today a 5.0. Kind of hard to tell down there. What do we got here? Earthquake just popping up here on the map. 5.3. Off the coast of Russia, 111 kilometers. That's pretty deep in this area of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, just north of this region, where we've seen that 7.3 strike. When was it? On the 16th, a couple weeks ago now. Still kind of watching this region up here, though. This area has seen some sufficient movement, but now we're kind of watching this area. It's been pretty quiet, but doesn't mean anything's going to pop. Just a deep earthquake, 5.3, and it's somewhat moderate in size, so got to watch that zone today, I think, with the increasing quietness down here in the south along the Indonesia area. Definitely could see some adjustment up here. Large-scale movement yesterday, very quiet through here today. So I could see some adjustment definitely taking place up there. Let's see what else we got. All right, folks, I'm gonna jump off here. I don't think we have anything major going on elsewhere. Once again, what do we got here? Another flare kicking up at that. Look at that. Ooh, wow. There's the D-layer absorption map there with the X-ray flux producing another, looks like possibly another X-flare. Look at the blackout here across North America and South America region. That definitely coming up into the X-class category. Let's see, just barely reaching it. It's not quite over yet, folks, so we're going to wait for this to kick up here. Looks like currently it's a M9.6 flare. almost into the X category. We were just talking about this, how this sunspot definitely has the capability of producing some further flaring. Of course, remember yesterday in X 1.3. We'll see what this does here. See if this thing reaches into the X level. If that does, that's 2 X's here within well, about 24 hours of each other. That's almost unheard of in terms of that type of activity. But then again, like I said, we are getting to the heading towards the solar maximum here in a couple years, right? Could be a sign of things to come in terms of the energy the sun is producing. Let's see here. Let me see what minute this is here. This is the 1 minute data. So we'll give it a second here and see. It looks like it has kind of peaked out a little bit there, right around the upper M category. Almost to an X there, so I don't think it's going to peak up from here. But you never know, right? Yeah, we're starting to see that decline. So that's pretty close, folks. That's very close to another X flare. Looks like we peaked out at, let's see here, M9.6, right? With a pretty sufficient blackout here across the North American and South American plate, once again, similar to yesterday. All right, folks, we'll keep an eye on it for sure. Definitely pretty active on the sun. We'll be back a little bit later on this evening, folks, unless something major happens. So stay tuned. Whole lot going on. Peace out, everyone.